Morning YouTubers, UXO here. What I'm going to do today is we have the corner bed and the wife wants a door here in the front so that she doesn't have to lift up the mattress. This is the new mattress we put on, which is probably 6 inches thicker than the old RV mattress. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to remove that front panel, and then inside there's a secondary panel. You can see the secondary panel in there. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to then cut out the front to make a door, build the door, and use the cutout from that for the insert of the door, so the door sort of looks the same as those doors. It won't be the same detail, of course, on the outside, but it will be the same color and you won't really notice it. So we'll get to it by taking that apart as carefully as possible so I can reuse all the end beads and the quarter round on the bottom. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark approximately where I want the door. So I'm just going to use my small level. I'm going to put a quick line on each side, and that will be the boundary of my door. So I have a little outline. You can see them. I don't know if you can see them too well, but I have an outline. So let's start taking this apart. Trying to be as careful as possible so we don't destroy too many things. I mean, luckily from the previous trailer rentals, I have some spare pieces and stuff. So if I crack something, you know, even if I break this, I have extra panels from the old dinette that I took out of here. Okay, so that piece, take this little leftover staple in here. We don't want to jam my fingers into that. So now I'm going to take the edge pieces off. I'm just going to use a screwdriver and hopefully just pry them up, not damaging too much of this. And of course we'll remove all these little brad nails. You see some of them are, you see them all sticking out here. Usually you could take a pair of pliers and just pull them back and pull them out. Okay, I'll take the baseboard off, and I'm just going to, there's a little gap here, I'm going to put the screwdriver in here and do the same thing, just pry across and pop it out. So this, you can see there's all little staples in here. So I'm going to try the same thing. I'm going to try to force my screwdriver into the end and start prying back, and hopefully they'll just pop out and not bust the board. But it could happen, which is already starting to happen. Bust, I could replace it, but I'm trying not to. Okay, so we got it out fairly good. I mean, all this is going to be covered up by the trim again. So this is the size we got to work with, which is the frame. And this inside piece, I'm just going to tap it and hopefully it'll all just come apart. This piece is not going to go back in anyways because we want access to the inside. So but see, if you crack the outside piece, you have a second piece if your trailer is built the same way. So I'm just going to turn this around and take a look on the inside, line it up properly. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I have it off, I'm going to draw the complete square inside. I'm going to use this frame that we can attach the hinges and everything to. So I'll cut this piece, the inside, cut this out, and then the frame, the hinges will attach to this nice piece here, and the door latch will connect inside here. If you can see those lines, now we have a nice square. That's going to be, when it's cut out, it's going to leave this opening completely open. Okay, so I'm in my garage. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my level to make sure these lines are nice and straight. So when I cut it, I know it's just a nice square line. I mean, nothing's really square in the trailer. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to draw a new line, make it nice and thick so I know where I'm cutting. I'm going to do it to the opposite side. Okay, I have my lines, my new lines that are nice and dark. So what I'm going to use, my my compound sliding miter saw and cut the inside, and I'll just use my jigsaw to finish the end cuts where my saw can't reach. And I'm going to cut just on the edge of the line, so I'm going to bring it out a little bit so that I can see a little bit of my line. Well, as you can see, what I did is at the end I just raised a piece of wood off the table to cut the corners. So that's going to be the frame, the outer frame of the door that will go back, attach back to the 1x2s that were there. So I had some of this, I guess they called it 2x3 or 1x2. It's more like finished, it's more like 3/4 by 1.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 4 pieces of this stock. And I'm going to take the longest side and just cut 4 of them the same size for now, and then I'm going to cut them down to fit properly to make that frame. Just a point to note on I marked the top of the door, so I know that the top of the door frame. So we got 18 by 16.5, so I'm going to cut 4 at 18. Now we have our 4 pieces. Of course, I'm going to miter them, angle them, cut them at 45s. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut the ends of them at 45. So this is just the rough stage, like I said. So let's take a look how the corners fit. So on the upper end pieces, since it's small, I'm only going to leave about a 1/2 inch reveal on the door, and on the sides I'm going to leave it almost flush so that the door is larger, has a larger opening for the door. Paper here, clean up the edges, make sure we got a pretty good fit. Okay, so I didn't like the 1x2 stock. Didn't look good enough, so I'm now using 1x3 stock. I cut it all, save you guys the pain of watching me cut it all. So what you have to remember is that this bottom piece is going to be attached to the frame, remember? So we have to have enough space on each side to put the hinges, because the hinges have to mount like this, and they want to go into the frame, the square frame that's left open right now. So that's why I brought it all in a little bit. And then on this side you have to put a door clasp. So this will be on the frame of the door, or on the frame, and then this will be on the inside here. So I made sure I have enough space that I can have this, you know, so it's past the piece of wood here, so it's not going to jam up, and then this will be on the frame of the door down here, and then it will just close onto it. So my next step is what I'm going to do is now that I have it all cut 45s and it's pretty squared off, I'm gonna router the edges round to make it similar to the cabinet faces that we have. And then I'm gonna cut out about 1/4 of an inch down, maybe a 1/2 inch along here with my table saw, so that the panel will fit flush inside. So it will fit flush inside, so it will be, you know, it'll look just like a cabinet face when it's done, when it's cut off. Now of course I'll cut the panel down to fit inside the square once I put the frame together. Okay, I have my router set up for the depth. So I'm going to do the outside edges and inside edges of all the 4 pieces. So I'll just do one to show you how I'm doing it, and then I'll pause the camera and complete them all. It's pretty loud, so I wear earplugs for this and safety goggles. So that's how simple it is. Basically, it's just see if I can get you in there to take a look at it. So as you can see, it puts a nice bullnose edge on there. So I'm going to do that for all the pieces, all 4 pieces, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I have them all done, all 4 of them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the smaller bit. This is a smaller little router bit, and I'm going to dress up just the inside. There's a little gouging. I think my other bit was a bit dull, so I'm going to do another router pass with the smaller bit to do just to get a little bit more detail in there. But see how it gives it a double edge in there. Just get it a little bit fancier to make it look a little bit like the existing one in there. So I'm going to finish them all, and then we'll carry on. Okay, so I'm all done routering it. All 4 pieces. I got just a bullnose on one side. I did the bullnose on the other side, plus I used a secondary smaller like a bullnose, and put a little detail in there. So what I'm going to do now is on the inside, I'm going to take out about 3/4 of an inch by about 1/4 of an inch, so that the panel will be able to fit flush into the piece of wood. So I'm just going to use the scrap of the 1x2. Basically all I want to make sure is the depth is good, and the depth is good on the inside, and the width is okay. So I don't have a dado blade on this little saw, so I set the fence at the furthest distance away I want to go. Set the fence furthest away, and then what I'll do is I'll just move it forward in increments to clear out all the meat that's left in there. And then you can use a chisel or a sander and sand it smooth. So I have it chiseled out there. You can see just a little test piece, and I'm going to set my piece inside and see what we got. And you can see that it's below this piece here, so it's good. And then that's what it's going to look like on the front. There's going to be a little reveal. It's going to be just like a cabinet door. So it does a pretty good job if you take your time. A little bit of sandpaper, it'll be nice and smooth. And it's going to look pretty good, I think, when it's all done and sanded out. Okay, got them all done. It turned out pretty good. Just a point to note, once I set my frame up, I number all the ends, so I know which way to go back together again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them, and then put one screw, pre-drill a hole and put one screw down from the top and bottom edge to hold this all together. I'm going to glue them all first, position them back in this order, and then countersink and put a 2.5 inch screw in. And I'm going to do the 2 bottom ones, and then I'm going to do the sides up here so you can't see it from the top. You should notice this one too much. I might put some wood filler in it so you can't see it. Exterior because of the cold, but shouldn't get any moisture, so should be alright even with interior wood glue. So I'm just going to press them, fit them all together right now. the glue will cause a little bit of a suction anyways. So now I'm just going to push it to the edge and then counter to drill my first hole. The reason you want to do that because you can easily split this wood. And you want to make sure you're not too far in because you have that beveled piece that's cut on the inside. So you don't want to hit that. You want to make sure you're 3/4 of an inch inside. Make sure it's squared off. I'm just going to snug it because after I'm going to come back and countersink that once the glue's dry. I don't know if you noticed, but when I went through and hit the other side, it pulled it apart. If you just reverse the screw and re-put it together again, it should make it snug. Okay. Take that glue off, any glue comes out because that's hard to stain the glue. I'm just going to leave that set for a while and we'll come back when it's dry. Okay, it's dry enough. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this panel to fit the inside. The easiest way to do that is just put the one corner inside and move it down a little bit and then just draw a line straight down and then do the same thing to the bottom piece. To the bottom piece as well. Just move it forward a little bit so you can see where it is and then use your square and cut off, and then you have your two pieces you're going to cut off. This doesn't have to be perfect because I made this cut out 3/4 of an inch, so there's a little bit of play. So I'm just going to quickly do it with my sliding saw here and cut it out, and then we'll do a test fit, and then I can cut off more if I need it. Welcome back. I finished sanding it all down. Looks pretty good. So now we're going to stain it before I put the centerpiece in. She's going to use a light oak color to sort of match this. I did a test thing. It seems to be all right. So I'm just going to stain it here. It looks a little dark, but it will dry up, lighten up when it dries. And I'll wipe it off a little bit. I mean, I'm never going to get a perfect match with the existing stain. So we'll leave that dry and then I'll do the other side. Okay, so it dried. All I did was once it was a little bit dry, I used a dry cloth and I rubbed it off to make it a little bit lighter, to try to match the original stain in the trailer. So now I'm just going to put a coat of lacquer on it. It's a light coat. Okay, so first coat's all dry. What I'm going to use now is I use 0000 steel wool, and what it does, it just gives it a little bit of, it's a little rough after every coat, so I'll just do a light rubbing of it to get any high spots off before I give it a second coat. Okay, so it's nice and dry. It's got 2 coats of lacquer on it. So all we're going to do now is we're going to insert the panel into the notched out part with a little bit of glue, put some weight on it and leave it dry. I'm not going to use too much glue because I don't want it to ooze out onto the front of the panel. So I'm going to squeeze it in there first and see if any comes out the back before I put some weight on the panel and make sure none's coming out, because you don't want the glue to be on the inside of your panel anyways. Looks pretty good. Okay, so it's been a few hours, nice and dry. No glue through the backside, which is good. So I already orientated inside the trailer which side I want the top of the door to be, so I marked it on the inside. So what we're going to do now is we're going to attach the hinges while we're here. So I'm going to put them, let's see here, 2.5 inches from the bottom. I don't want it to hit the piece of floor trim that's going to be on the base here, so I'm going to make sure it's up enough. I can go closer to the top because there's nothing at the top of the cabinet except the bed frame. So I'm probably, when I put the back piece on, I'm going to put the bottom trim back on to make sure. Then I could just put it about 1/4 of an inch off the bottom of the base trim, or 1/4 round. Be right back. Okay, we're back inside. We got the front cover piece that's going to go on. Remember, I have it marked at the top inside here, so I know which way is the top. So it goes on there, and the door is going to go, hinges are going to go on this side. So we got, make sure we get the meat that can fit, so that the hinges go in there. So the door will sit something like that. Brad nailer hooked up. I'm just going to put a couple of brad nails in to hold this panel in place. Along the, they had staples in it before, but I don't have staples for my brad nailer. And I just sunk it a little bit. Okay, that's on. So like I said, I'm going to put the base, the 1/4 round on first, so that I make sure the door's not going to rub against it. And I was careful, remember, when we took them off, not to break them. What we're going to do is we're going to position the door, lining up the outer hinges, the hinge screws, into this meat of wood here. So we can see that it's, I'm just going to draw a line. I'll erase the line after the fact. But I want to make sure that the hinges are in the meat of this wood. Just put a couple of quick lines. I'll use my level after I put the first screw in to ensure that the door is square. Just gonna put a pencil mark in the top hole. Again, use my punch. I'm gonna punch a little hole. I'm not tightening them up. I'm just gonna leave them a little bit loose. Now I'm going to use my level on the top of the door, and then punch my, or mark my second hole down below. Okay, so now we have the two in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to again put the level, make sure it's level, and then tighten those 2 screws up. There we go. So there we go, the door. The top molding piece, put that back on again. So the last thing I got to do is put the trim pieces all back on. Okay, so that looks much better. A little wow in it. It happens sometimes when I put the hasp inside to close it. It will keep it closed, and it should straighten itself out. So now we'll finish putting the doorknob on. I believe I have 7.5 and 7 5/8. So I'm just going to bring it up a little bit when I drill the hole. And I want to center the doorknob in between. So we got 2.5, 1.25 inches. See if the screw fits through here. Got it. So there we have it, the new door. The new door, so we can get underneath the bed without having to lift this heavy thing up now with, like I said, with the new big mattress on it. I sanded it off inside so there's no rough edges in here. And self-closing hinges. I am going to put a hasp inside, a little catch like the doors have. They all have little catches, so I'm going to put it right there and then put it on the inside, and that will keep the door closed. So we'll do that next. So the inside of the door, we're going to put a hasp on it that will keep the door closed. So since we know that this screw holds the center, I'm going to put the base piece right here, and then I'm going to close the door, and on the inside of the door I'm going to line up this piece so that it fits in, and then I'm going to screw this piece into the inside of the door frame, but on the other side, of course. I'm just going to close the door to make sure it clears the door frame. So close the door, make sure it clears the door frame. So now the second piece. So what you can do is you can clip it onto the piece you just put on. Close the door, slide it past so it fits, and then just mark it with a pencil inside against the frame, making sure it's tight. There we go. That shouldn't open anymore when you're traveling. Plus the self-closing hinges help keep it closed. So that's it. That's it for how to install a door in a spot of your travel trailer where there's no previous door. So it's going to make it much easier to get stuff from under the bed now. I give this one about a 6.5 on the Handyman UXO scale. You need a few tools to do this. As you see, you need a little table saw, a chop saw, you know, so a couple of clamps. But overall, I think it turned out quite well. I'll clean up this, put some wood filler in these holes again. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, put them down below in the video. Have a great day.